Biblical counseling brings to the table something that other forms of counseling do not bring to the table. For example, when you look at most humanistic systems, the presumption on which they stand is naturalism. And when you have a counseling approach which is based on naturalism, it is standing in contradistinction to another form of approach which is based on revelation. The truth of scriptural wisdom and the truth of wisdom from natural reasoning and research do not always coincide. They don't always agree. You can see that we agree that we are confronted with generations who have swallowed the postmodern ethos, which distrust authority, and the Bible is an authority, so it is natural for them to distrust it. It distracts concepts which are not which they haven't tested for themselves. So as they come along, they want to deconstruct what they feel needs to be deconstructed and reconstruct it by what authority? By their own authority. Okay, so as they are deconstructing and reconstructing, those of us who come from biblical counseling were saying, go ahead, deconstruct and reconstruct, but this is what we have received from God, and if you can offer something better, bring it to the table. God's wisdom does not cower from the wisdom of people. A lot of times people have come out with their wisdom and they have put it on the table, and it has come out that the wisdom of God has survived. The wisdom of God has prevailed in the end, as a therapist. And for the sake of quantification and insurance and payments, people like to have something that is categorized, and protocols are also categorized. And so when you go in that direction, you say, okay, I am this kind of a counselor and I am consulting the DSM-5 or the IDC-10, whatever categorization you are consulting and whatever protocols you are consulting. All of that is necessary for the psychologist to say, I did everything by the book, I followed the rules, therefore pay me, therefore cover me from legal suits. Biblical counseling, we are looking at the human as a person made in the image of God, brought to a stature of God. And because this person is not sick, but rather weakened by the presence of sin, weakened by propensities towards bondages of sin, and where there is a God, we are not afraid to mention that there is a sin factor. The client may be one who has been sinned against, and the client also needs to look at their own relationship with God. Is this relationship with God what it needs to be? If there is sin in that relationship, it needs to be rectified. If something is wrong in the interpersonal aspect of relationship, it also needs to be rectified. But for some, the idea of the relational aspect of counseling is difficult. But I want to say most of what counseling, biblical counseling, is about It's about bringing people into alignment with God, into alignment with who they really are, their destiny, and everything that God has invested in them. Bring themselves into alignment with the relational aspect, other people. Who do I connect with? Who is going to be destructive? What kind of connections do I need to have with the people that are around me? So the relational aspect is primary. It is very helpful for that counselor to be very clear from the word go that they are there to provide the wisdom that is necessary, and whatever they bring to the table will also include correcting the relational things that may be out of work. There is also the issue of what do we do with the pain of having been sinned against. It's not just correcting the relationship, but also working with the pain of that injury. And the moment we talk about injury, we almost immediately begin to say, let's look for the healing. That has a place also. But there's also looking beyond that. What put me in that place? What did I lack for me to be in that place? So the ministry of grace, the ministry of empowerment, bringing the client to the place where they are at their most excellent in the power that they have available to them. They come to appreciate and embrace the grace that God has worked within and begin to work it out so that that grace becomes the face of their day-to-day life. And as we engage, whether it's in business, it's in education, can we be gracious? As we connect with people, how are we connecting? Those are important considerations. What needs to be strengthened so that I don't become a victim? What needs to be strengthened in me? It may not be broken, it may just be weakened. What is incomplete? What is immature, which needs to be brought to maturity? And so in biblical counseling, room for discipleship, room for growth exists. And similarly, in other types of counseling, you will see that, but not in those exact words. But at the close of the day, when our job is done, God is our judge. God is our judge. I hope anyone who wants to be a biblical counselor will take that to heart. You are not a servant of the people for the people's sake. You are a servant of God for the people's sake. And if you take that with you in your counseling ministry, it will help you, because it is very easy to be swallowed by human need. It is easy to be distracted by the fact that we are in warfare. There is spiritual warfare. And the counselor is not exempt, because they are not preaching or out in the front like an evangelist casting out demons every day. And the enemy is not fooled by the fact that the counselor is not out there doing a lot of public things. But the enemy knows that when wisdom, which is from above, comes, there will be problems. It will destroy wisdom which is earthly, wisdom which is devilish. So, because Satan and the entire network of fallen angels around them want a certain worldview to prevail. They want certain conceptualizations to ascend and take preeminence. Those are what are called doctrines of demons. They have something they teach. They may teach it in different ways, and as a counselor, part of the spiritual warfare is to keep our eyes open, see why is this teaching there? Why are we constructing and deconstructing? It's wisdom. Yeah, it's postmodern wisdom. You know, don't receive anything passed to you by some authority. Check it up, make sure that it's accurate, make sure that it's correct. That's okay. But the spirit behind that might be to set aside the ancient voice, what God has been saying from creation, so that Satan's voice can be heard. So that could be it. I'm not saying that no, everybody who is constructing and deconstructing is listening to the doctrines of demons. I'm simply saying, as a counselor, as a biblical counselor, we have to ask those deeper questions. Why is this here? Why is this teaching, this practice coming up? Whether it's in the church or in the secular realm or in the whatever public space it might be, we just have to take an interest in what's going on around us spiritually. And as we do that, we need to also be people of prayer, because we minister out of the overflow. Okay, so I think I've said quite a lot in the time that I have, but I thought it was good to just say something about biblical counseling, because sometimes people show up and say, I want to be a counselor, and I don't know which brand of counseling to take. And I just want to say, well, if you are that kind of a person, there are many flavors of ministry in counseling, and biblical counseling is one of them. It's not the only one, it's part of the continuum of care. So if that's where God has called you, you are welcome to do that. You may not be certified by some certifying authority, you may be persecuted by some prosecutors that might be there, for their own reasons. But biblical counseling is a flavor in counseling, is a legitimate, something that comes from the heart of God. God is divine. He's a wonderful counselor, the mighty God. That is a descriptor of Jesus. The descriptor of the Holy Spirit, Jesus says, the Father will send you another counselor. So God the Father sent us Jesus, a counselor, and Jesus promised us another counselor. So counseling is not something that is like an afterthought. Counseling is a big matter. Jesus was known as the rabbi, the teacher, but he also understood that he was a counselor. The Messiah was known to be one who is going to be a counselor. So, yeah, having said all of that, I don't like concluding 5 times before I say it's done, but it is done. I think I have said more than enough.